Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the NFL Combine is mere days away, and with this being really the biggest NFL event for the next couple of months, of course, there's going to be a lot of fan speculation, a lot of media coverage, and a lot of eyes on these prospects as some of the college football's best players go to Indianapolis to showcase their strength, speed, endurance, and mental capacity for the game of football in order to be drafted into the NFL. Now, for a lot of prospects, this event can make or break their draft stock. It can propel somebody into the top 10 or drop a bona fide top 10 prospect into the middle or late first round. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about a couple of different players to keep an eye on during this NFL Combine. Now, some of these players have everything to lose, and some of these players have everything to gain. Some of these players on here with a good Combine performance could go from a middle first round pick or even a day 2 pick to a first round or early first round selection. And some of these players with bad combines can go from top 10 picks, first round guys, to day 2 or even maybe later. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about some of the biggest Combine players and some of the players that you as Lions fans and as NFL fans should be keeping an eye out for when the Combine officially kicks off. Now, starting off with the first player today, we are going to be talking about Aidan Hutchinson, the edge rusher from the University of Michigan. Aidan Hutchinson is a 6'6", 265-pound edge rusher and is projected to be a top 5 pick, if not the #1 overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars when the draft eventually rolls around. But he does still have a ways to go before he is officially selected and drafted into the NFL. And the first step of that process is going to be competing at the NFL Combine. Now, I would expect Aidan Hutchinson to test extremely well when it comes to the 40-yard dash, the bench press, the vertical, or anything that has to do with his explosiveness or his power. But the one thing that I think you need to keep an eye on for when it comes to Aidan Hutchinson is his 3-cone drill and any other drill that tests his agility and movement in space. As we've talked about before, Aidan Hutchinson, especially on tape, did not show a great ability to move in space, did not show an ability to cover, did not show an ability to, change direction very quickly, tackle guys in open space, and didn't really showed that his size and weight and power really compromises his fluidity, his hip movement, and of course his change of direction. In the Combine, I would not expect Aidan Hutchinson to test very well at the 3-cone. But if he does, if he shows that ability to move laterally, if he shows that ability to change direction very quickly, shows that ability to, move his hips, look fluid in coverage, and just has that ability to change direction in open space, and he, if he shows that ability, I think that would raise Aidan Hutchinson's draft prospect scouting report even higher than it already is, because my one major flaw and one major con with Aidan Hutchinson is that he doesn't move in space, is the fact that he cannot cover. But if he shows up at the NFL Combine, has really good agility scores, has really good change of direction drills, and looks really good in the open space and in the open field, I think the argument for Hutchinson over Thibodeau comes that much closer, and I think the argument between Hutchinson and Thibodeau may even start leaning in the direction of Aidan Hutchinson. Now, another player that I think is going to be huge at this year's Combine is a wide receiver from North Dakota State, and that, of course, is Christian Watson, the 6'5", 205-pound wide receiver from North Dakota State. Now, Christian Watson is currently projected as a 3rd-round pick, and in a lot of formats is ranked anywhere between the 11th and 15th wide receiver in this year's NFL class. But with good testing, I think that Christian Watson could jump as high as the 1st round of the NFL draft. I mean, you look at Christian Watson in a very similar way to DK Metcalf, right? He never really produced all that highly at the NFL level, never really put up a phenomenal statistical season with his NFL with his collegiate football team, but he has all the physical tools and all the physical skills while showing on tape that he is more than capable of producing at any offense with any scheme, even with lackluster cornerback play. And it's a very similar story between DK Metcalf and Christian Watson. Christian Watson is a 6'5", 205-pound wide receiver who's projected to go in the late 3rd round as the 14th wide receiver off the board. Christian Watson is projected to run anywhere from a 4.4 to a low 4.3 and is expected to test incredibly well at the NFL Combine, just like DK Metcalf did a few years ago. Now, DK Metcalf, I wouldn't say is a top 10. I wouldn't even say is a 15 wide receiver in the NFL, but he is an extremely good wide receiver one. He is a really good, dominant, deep threat wide receiver that has put up multiple really good years and has been a bona fide starter for the Seattle Seahawks with that Russell Wilson connection. And for the first time, Metcalf got that quarterback that he never had at Ole Miss, and he statistically broke out and had better seasons in the NFL than he ever had at the collegiate level. Now, Christian Watson is somebody that I am extremely high on. He didn't have a great statistical season with North Dakota State, but he showed all the physical tools. He showed all the skills that you would ever want out of a wide receiver. And of course, that 6'5" frame running a 4.4 would be a really, really nice tool for Jared Goff to have in his 2nd year in Detroit. So watch out for Christian Watson. With a good combine, I think you could see his stock rise tremendously. Malik Willis is another player that I think could have a huge stock raise at the NFL Combine, but not so much with the physical tools, right? Not so much with the 40-yard dash, the vertical, the long jump, or the 3-cone drill or bench press or anything like that. I don't think his physical testing is where you're really going to see his stock get raised, because everybody knows Malik Willis is an athlete. Everybody knows Malik Willis is going to run a fast 40. Everybody knows Malik Willis is going to have a good 3-cone because he moves well in space. Everybody knows that Malik Willis is going to test well physically because he's an explosive, fast, and dynamic athlete. But what I think is really going to help and benefit Malik Willis at this combine is going to be the throwing portions of the NFL Combine, right? Where they line up all the quarterbacks, have wide receivers run different routes, short, medium, and long, and the NFL quarterbacks in training have an opportunity to show off their arm talent, have an opportunity to show off their accuracy, their release, and all the physical gifts that they have as an NFL quarterback. And that is where Malik Willis absolutely shines as an NFL prospect, right? The biggest pros about Malik Willis and drafting him in the 1st round is his huge arm, his athleticism, his accuracy, and his releases. The only downsides to Malik Willis is reading the game, getting to that 2nd and 3rd read, staying in the pocket, not getting spooked out of the pocket and running for his life, trying to make a huge touchdown, a huge, Hail Mary play, and playing too much hero ball. That's the big cons with Malik Willis. But at the Combine, you're not going to have that. At the Combine, you're not going to have edge rushers. At the Combine, you're not going to need a 2nd read because there's only one receiver running a route, and it's all about ball placement. It's all about accuracy. It's all about arm strength and arm talent, how fast you can get the ball, how good and how well you deliver a football down the field to the wide receivers. And I think Malik Willis is going to look like the best quarterback in this class when he shows up to the NFL Combine. And a big part of that is his physical traits, and I think those physical traits are going to skyrocket Malik Willis's draft stock, maybe as high as the top 10, which is unfortunate for the Lions, but is very obviously very good for Malik Willis. Now, the last player that I wanted to take a look at, I think a dark horse player for the Lions to target, but a guy that if he does fall into the middle of the 1st round, even late into the 1st round, I think could be a target for the Detroit Lions if he eventually falls all the way to number 32. And that player would be Nakobe Dean, the linebacker from Georgia. Now, Nakobe Dean only stands at 6 foot even, 225 pounds, and is looked at as an undersized linebacker for the NFL, right? When you think of elite NFL linebackers, you think of 6'3", you look at 6'3" Darius Leonard, you look at Bobby Wagner as a big linebacker, you look at Fred Warner, who's big and long, you look at, a lot of great linebackers in the NFL, and a lot of great linebackers throughout NFL history were 6'2", 6'3", 230, 245 pounds, right? Big guys that can make tackles in the hole, big guys that can just move well in space and are freakish athletes. And Nakobe Dean is only 6 foot. Now, we have seen some undersized linebackers perform in the NFL before, so it's not that it can't be done, but if Nakobe Dean goes in, and if Nakobe Dean measures in a little shorter than we thought, or if Nakobe Dean, right, doesn't have the long enough arms, and if his measurements don't come back exactly as people see them right now, if his measurements come back even a hair shorter or a hair smaller than a lot of people think already, I think Nakobe Dean could see a draft stock fall regardless of his performance in college and regardless of his performance at the NFL Combine, right? For a lot of people, measurables and measurements are huge because if you have an undersized linebacker, that's going to leave holes exposed in your defense. And if you have an undersized linebacker, it's going to be harder to build around that guy to protect that player versus building around them so that they can thrive and be the center point and be the centerpiece of your defense. So Nakobe Dean, I think, has a lot to lose at this NFL Combine. I think he can gain a little bit of draft stock if he does measure well, and then of course if he goes out, runs a good 40, jumps a good vertical, jumps a good broad jump, puts up good reps on the bench press, and of course has some good movement drills with the linebackers, you could see Nakobe Dean even raise a little bit in this draft class. But if he measures a little bit shorter, you could expect Nakobe Dean to fall quite a ways, and if he falls to the Lions at 32, he's definitely a prospect for the Lions to consider. So with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Those are the 4 guys that I think you need to keep an eye on at this NFL Combine. 4 guys that have a lot to lose but also have a lot to gain. A lot of guys that can answer a lot of questions for you at this year's Combine, and guys that in general, as Lions fans and NFL fans, you should be keeping an eye out for because you're going to hear their names on Sunday. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what players you're looking forward to at the NFL Combine. If you guys like this video, we can go do another one, talk about more prospects to keep an eye on. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!